the footnotes of the Geneva Bible, which King James outlawed and then took the footnotes away, actually says this happened within 50 years
50
because
years.
a biblical generation is 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
They keep moving the goalposts of that, obviously, because, to make it fit the futurist view, and because, they were still waiting for Jesus to come back at his second coming. They have to move the goalposts all the time. I don't know how many books were written about 1988 being the time when Jesus came back, because they established the Rothschilds established the modern state of Israel in 1948 through the Balfour Declaration. So 40 years from then would be 1988. Then they changed the goalposts again and again and again and again, and it goes on.
So now a generation, accordingly, they're saying is like 120 years.
They just
now,
keep moving that goalpost all the time. When really, if we're just looking at how it was read, and if you're reading it as it was read, as if he was speaking to them, it makes so much sense. There is no, they say God isn't a God of confusion, and I believe that God isn't a God of isn't a God of confusion. Yet you've got all of these different people feeling different things because they're interpreting different, and some of the things that I've seen to make things fit is just so obscure, and it's like, that is confusing as far as I'm concerned. That is really, really confusing, and he told them constantly. I don't know how many times. Is it like 101 verses or something? That's just some of them.
I've got printed out 101 verses, and there's more which I found on
and I think a lot of people will argue, and they do, that the most pushback I get, right, is that when people are on about, the Mount of Olives, and in Matthew 24, when they ask Jesus, when should we expect this to happen? And he gives them all those signs, right? And then people will come back and say, well, this hasn't happened. This hasn't happened. This hasn't happened. But it actually has.
Can I intervene?
Yeah.
So one of those, and I've actually got it open on Matthew 24, I believe it's Matthew
24. And go through that.
Yeah, Matthew 24, 14. Right, Matthew 24, 14. And so basically the apostles, it's Mark and Luke. In Mark and Luke, it actually names the apostles who ask him the question. So he says there won't be one stone of this temple upon another stone which won't be thrown down. Basically, he's talking about prophesying the destruction of the temple and the city of Jerusalem. And he says, and so they ask him, when will this happen? And so he runs through various things. And the last one, he says, and the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come.
That's a common one that people say. It hasn't been preached in all the nations.
And similarly, in Mark 16, 15, Jesus says to them, go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And this is a major, nearly everyone says, well, it hasn't been preached to every nation. So first of all, I'd just like to point out that in those times, a nation refers to like a tribe. It's not like America or something in what we would see a nation today. They would, a nation was a tribe or something. Anyway, so biblically, was the gospel preached to every nation and every creature? So Colossians 1:23. If ye continue in the faith grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven. So that's that one. Colossians 1:5-6, for the hope which is laid upon you in heaven, wherefore ye have heard the word of the truth of the gospel, which is come unto you, as it is in all the world. Romans 16:25-26. I'll just read the 26 bit. But now is made manifest, and by the scriptures of the prophets, according to the commandments of the everlasting God, made known to all nations for the obedience of faith. And
Timothy,
Romans 10:18. I go back to Acts 21, where they spoke to everyone in their own language. 1 Timothy 3:16, Revelation 14:16.